The Minister of Environment. CIBC First Caribbean Bank back at its main location. And the Falcons Boys Club preparing to take a big step.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening all, I'm Shashina Roll-Clarkson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, the Minister of the Environment, the Honorable Ramal Ferreira, on Grand Bahama last evening for a town meeting with the Grand Bahama Environmental Association and residents living near the industrial park in the Southern District. Now, it was an open discussion with the residents who have been complaining of environmental concerns for many years. Our Megan Shepard was there.
President of the Environmental Association, Bertram Pinder, reiterating the cries of residents that their ultimate goal is to be relocated far away from the industrial sector. He says that residents are looking forward to working with the minister and the government, and they are willing to utilize all possible avenues for results.
We are prepared to resume our planned demonstrations, our press conferences, radio talk shows.
Executive member of the Grand Bahama Environmental Association, Shuffle Hepburn, says that the association has already sent 5 sets of correspondence to the current government regarding their concerns. He claims that decades worth of evidence has been documented and the residents are ready for action.
This report, done by Nico Grant's government and the committee that he spearheaded, which went door to door to all of you. Yeah. I see your name in here, where you said, in answer to the question, do I want to be relocated? Hell yes. 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 Yes.
One resident posing the question of concrete legislation being put in place to protect residents in the future.
I want to know what you're going to put in place that would be at the change of any government that they would have to honor, that we can move ahead with our environmental issues.
From the time I hit the ministry, we've been working towards an Environmental Protection Act. This is the signature piece of environmental legislation that we want to have. In the interim, there's the Environmental Health Services Act, 1987, and there's also something called the Common Law, which is based on nuisance, negligence, and Rylance Fletcher. And in all of those situations, the person that's making the assertion, based on the Latin maxim, he who asserts must prove, the obligation is on the person that is making the assertion to actually prove that whatever that they have experienced, and these are personal injury matters, the crux of any assignment of liability lies in causation.
Another resident concerned about whether or not the government is prepared to relocate residents as well as take on their medical bills.
Do you all have anything in place for even when we are moved out of these areas that would benefit us or to take care of us and our children for the rest of our life, medical-wise?
What we're talking about here is that we have situations where people undoubtedly have experienced things that have caused them to experience great anxiety and sufferation that they have attributed to the proximity in which they live to these operations. But none of it has been tested in the court of law. Everyone who's put up their hand here, I can bet you none of you have ever litigated any of this. You have no judgments, you have no writs, you have no court orders.
Ambassador His Excellency Maurice Moore has been in the Southern District for some 78 years. He says during his years in government, he too made suggestions to solve this issue, going so far as identifying a location in the Freeport area for those who wish to relocate.
The government, Pharmacam, Borco, the power company, and the Port Authority needs to sit down seriously and figure out the best way they can move the people out of this settlement.
Emotions ran high as various residents recounted their negative health conditions that they claim are a result of living in the Southern District. They are now calling for an audience with the Prime Minister because they say nothing was accomplished in the town meeting. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
After operating from a makeshift facility for more than a week, CIBC First Caribbean Bank is now back in business at its Mall Drive location. The bank was forced to close its doors abruptly for remedial repairs. Its reopening today was good news for the CIBC customers. Natalia Hall has more on this story.
Customers braved the rain from as early as 9 a.m. to secure a spot inside the Mall Drive branch. The line stretched from the foyer of the building to the outside of the First Commercial Center. Customers waited anxiously to get to a teller, and the bank usually opens at 9:30, but at 9:36 the bank's security officer peeped through the door and advised customers that they would have to wait an additional 5 minutes. At 9:41, CIBC officially opened their doors, and there was a scramble to get inside, causing some customers to call for order, complaining that others were trying to jump the line.
Great to know that the bank is, especially today with violent raining.
Feel mighty good. This is excellent. I call it, a good treat.
Now, some customers say they still do not agree with the bank's decision to close their doors so abruptly.
It's a big inconvenience. I didn't know anything about it until I came here and saw the posters.
Absolutely appalling customer service. Why they did not notify all of their customers by email. Dear valued customer, our bank, due to reservations, will be closed for the next 2 weeks. Sorry for any inconvenience. We've relocated at so-and-so, so-and-so. That would have been good banking service.
Now, while those customers feel as if the bank did not give proper warning to customers, others say they fully understand why the bank had to make that decision.
You have to do what you have to do. If they had a situation here and I thought they made the best of it over there, I can't complain.
It ain't a big issue to me, but I think they did a quick job. It was diligent, and these things happen.
If they have renovation to be done, then it's got to be done.
Very inconvenient, but I think what they had to deal with was essential.
But customer Roger Roll says he believes there's a need for 2 branches on the island.
And if something like this happens again, then they can always resort to crowding on one branch for a temporary time.
As the first set of customers to be served walked out of the bank, they were given a light breakfast courtesy of CIBC.
Finally got to the teller. It was great.
It was great, and they served me real fast. It was a pleasure doing business with them.
The service was excellent. They're back to normal. Everything is running smoothly. I was in and out of the business section in about 15 minutes, and so I'm pleased they're back on track.
The bank was forced to move to the makeshift center at the Priform building on West Atlantic Drive for just over a week. Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Natalia Hall.
Switching gears now, in May of last year, the Progressive Liberal Party administration signed a heads of agreement with Carnival Cruise Lines for a multi-million-dollar cruise port in East Grand Bahama. It was viewed as an opportunity to build the economy of the East. In this report, the Deputy Prime Minister gives an update on the project. Natalia Hall has this story.
The new cruise port is set to be built on the North Shore west of Statoil. The $200 million project is expected to create many jobs for Grand Bahamians. But when the Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquist was asked for an update on the project, he gave this response.
I'm not prepared to say much about that at this point, but certainly we're still looking forward to some participation from Carnival, and we'll see how that resolves itself.
The DPM says there's a concern about the effect the cruise port can have on the surrounding communities.
One of the issues has been, how do we ensure that Bahamians who would ordinarily benefit from the business being generated out of the harbor are not disadvantaged. So we are working and to make sure that any opportunities that exist do inure to the benefit of the Bahamian people, and to ensure that there is as much inclusion as possible in entrepreneurial opportunities and career opportunities as possible. We believe that the discussion so far has been positive in that regard.
He says the project would solidify the cruise line's commitment to the island.
We expect that they'll bring more ships to the island, which gives us, again, more opportunity to engage in entrepreneurial opportunities, to take advantage of this additional passengers on the island.
Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Natalia Hall.
Celebrating the first biannual National Maritime Week earlier this month. In recognition of this, leaders and members of the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corporation paid a courtesy call on the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, sharing some of the accomplishments of the Grand Bahama Division. Megan Shepherd was there.
Applauding the leaders of the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corp for their commitment to developing young people in the maritime industry, noting that various companies on Grand Bahama and the fact that the island has one of the largest deepwater harbors in the region. He says that Grand Bahama is primed to take advantage of this industry.
I just want to encourage them to stay focused. This is a very, very important industry, not just for the Bahamas, but particularly for Grand Bahama. There are many fruits that can come to bear as a result of the maritime industry. And so it is a very good industry that they are getting involved in.
Director Clayton Curtis says that the program is open to students in grades 10 through 12 and offers exposure and training in various aspects of the industry.
We've had some degree of success in the past in that persons who have completed our program have gone on to tertiary level institutions, both the technical and the academic aspects, and are now employed in the industry as marine pilots, ships agents, tugboat operators, and similar areas.
Isaiah McBride recently graduated from the program and went on to attend Holland College. He says the program provided him with an excellent foundation to excel.
At the end of my course, I became the first student to achieve a 90. No one has ever gotten above an 80. So to achieve a 90 and being one of the first males in my family to go off to college and do something like that, it was a great experience for me. And right now I'm just still awaiting to be assigned on a vessel.
Jeremy Russell and Red Store are completing the program this year and say they too have gained knowledge and a passion.
I learned a lot during that time, which some of them include first aid, firefighting, how to take care of a ship, and how to stay safe out on sea.
It's a feel for you because this is actually meant for you. It's not something that I need, it's something that I want. And I feel like since the opportunity is there, I'm going to grab it.
Megan Shepherd, ZNS Network News.
In news from the crime beat, 22-year-old Malik Lang of Guilford Crest, Mayfield Park, and Arsenio McKinney, 28 of Caliban Drive, were both arraigned before Magistrate Subu Swain in New Providence today on charges of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply, taking preparatory steps to export dangerous drugs, and conspiracy to export dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. The two men and a female were arrested at the Grand Bahama International Airport on Tuesday afternoon after one of the men presented himself at U.S. Customs to board a flight to the U.S. with some 7.5 pounds of suspected cocaine in a carry-on bag. Both men pleaded not guilty and were remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until September 18th. Charges were not brought against the female. Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, continues in just a moment.